Hi, this is Mary Ann Hughes, and I'm so pleased today to feature one of our divorce or special needs children premium partners, Erik Feig. And he is a mediator, and I'll let him share about what he does and how he helps special needs families before, during, and after divorce. Welcome, Erik.
I am so glad to be here, Marianne. Thank you for having me.
My
So,
pleasure.
so I'm a mediator. I work with parents and families, all structures, all stages. So I work with them when they're separating. I work with them when they're divorcing. I work with them after the divorce is complete, post-divorce type issues. And I also work with parents who are together. And in all of these areas, with a special focus on families that have additional needs, neurodivergent special needs, learning differences, social, emotional, behavioral differences, all of those things that can make parenting more complicated for parents, and even more so when they're going through a divorce process.
Great. So, what are some things that families need to think about, and how can they approach having discussions with you or someone like you when it comes to trying to figure out how to navigate divorce and the discussions and come to agreements?
Well, there's so many ways we get stuck. See behind me, I keep a Canon WD-40, which is really, and I know you and I have talked about this before, it's really about what mediation is for. It's about helping families when they get stuck, when they have different ideas about, well, the way things should be on important issues, questions, concerns, and they have trouble bridging the divide. So as a mediator, what I do is I help them have the conversations that are hard for them to have themselves and do it in a solving, a solutions oriented way so that they can look at the problem, look at the issue, look at their options, put what they need to on the table so that they could hear each other, be heard by each other, and then say, what's possible? What if? How can we get to where we need to go? And what are the ways that we can get there? And then we see if they can all come to an agreement, an arrangement that they can all say yes to. It's one of the important and I think most profound things about mediation is, and I tell this to all of my clients, all the families I work with, nothing happens unless everyone says yes. So you have this natural, I'll say, way of getting to a place that can work for everybody. It's not easy. Sometimes it takes help, and sometimes it takes someone that's not involved that can help you in a way where we're not taking sides. And that's what mediation is all about to me. And that's what my role is all about, helping you get there.
Right. So, at what point of the process do you come in, or do you suggest for people either thinking about divorce or in a divorce or any discussions? What's a good time for them to reach out to you to discuss those kind of concerns that they may have and maybe disagreements that they can't come to resolution on?
It's a funny question. I call myself a recovering lawyer. I was an attorney for a very long time. I used to tell the folks that I worked with, and I say the same thing as a mediator. Sometimes the best time to reach out to me is before you need to reach out to me. So I am all in favor of conflict, not just conflict resolution, but conflict prevention, getting at the issues before they get to that point where they've escalated, where people dig in. That's ideal. Doesn't always happen. So in the real world, it's when you get to those points where you find yourself saying to each other or thinking to yourself, why don't they understand me? Why can't they agree? I don't understand why, whatever the rest of that sentence might look like, but all the ways you say, you're over there, I'm over here, and I don't know how we're going to come together without this being a battle or without this being something where one of us wins, one of us loses. And I'll mention also another important aspect, and I think this is really central to how I do things. My view when working with families is we put the kids first and we keep them at the center of the conversations, but we do that in a way that doesn't put them in the middle of what's going on between the adults. And I think that's really hard to do sometimes, especially when we feel that issues are important. We're doing things that we think are in the best interest of our kid. And, well, our partner, our spouse, our ex probably also thinks is in the best interest. And it becomes that pushing and pulling and that battle of Well, who has the more right way of getting there? And sometimes it's not a question of who's more right, it's just what's going to work and what will work for everybody.
Right. And some people look at mediation or have heard about it, maybe that you're in separate rooms with lawyers and mediators going it back and forth. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with families and how you help them come to agreements and have a memorandum of understanding?
Sure. And I think those are all important points. Let me take them one at a time. So there's different styles of mediation. Different mediators have different approaches. Some tend to be more formal, more legalistic. Some tend to be more informal. The way I do it, I believe that this is, like I said, this is a discussion. This is a structured dialogue that's done in a problem solving, a solutions oriented way. So when I'm working with families, when I'm working with parents, they're talking to each other. I do it all on Zoom. I work with families all across the country. I'm based in Maryland, right outside of DC, but I am able through Zoom and through technology, through the magic of technology, to be able to work all across the country. That said, we are all on screen together. The vast, vast majority of our work is done together. It's helpful for people to hear each other, to be able to ask questions. My role is not just to facilitate, it's also to provide those bumpers that help keep the discussion on track. So we're talking about where you're going instead of just staying stuck on how you got to where you are or what's happened in the past. Those are all things that I think lend themselves very well to mediation, but it's a direct discussion. I tell any family that comes to me, that works with me, you need to assess what you think will be the best fit. Not every mediator is going to be the right fit. Not every attorney is going to be the right fit. Not any coach. You can go down the line. At the end of the day, these are important discussions. These are important decisions. You need to feel comfortable with whoever you're working with, that they can walk with you, my words, that they can walk with you through this process and walk with you in a way that helps you get to the other side. So, my way is we work together, we have the discussions together. The exceptions are when we work separately. But that said, I encourage everyone to have whatever resources they need available to them. So if you need legal advice, you can always reach out to them. If you need advice about tax, finances, you name it, whatever it might be, therapies, therapeutics, medical decisions. My view, my approach is I want people in mediation to be best positioned to make the best decisions they can with the best information available to them. So that's how I do things. Now, you mentioned also the idea of an MOU versus an MSA. So, in my process, the output, if you will, of the mediation is we generate what's called a memorandum of understanding. And what that is a detailed summary, a detailed listing of all of the agreements that you're able to reach in mediation, all of the areas where you say, yes, and this is how we want to move forward. I'm acting as your facilitator. I'm not, I mentioned before, I'm a recovering attorney. I'm not acting as anyone's attorney. An attorney is there to represent somebody. I'm there to provide your process and to facilitate the conversation. You just saw real quick, that was my partner and my boss here. I have two cats that sometimes make an appearance during our mediations. But what I was saying about the memorandum, I think is very important because I have one role, and that's to be the mediator. And any family that I work with, I want and I offer the idea of being a resource on an ongoing basis. You might be stuck now, we might work through your issues. You might find in 6 months there's another time where you disagree and you have trouble bridging the divide again. I want you to be able to feel that mediation is a resource for you to be able to come back, to be able to have another conversation if, as, and when you need it, and then be able to move forward. It doesn't have to be a one and done. It doesn't have to be starting from scratch every time. But the idea is, how do you keep the family, how do you keep your kids on track? Mediation. I, as a mediator, my view is I'm one of your tools. I'm one of your tools in your toolbox, one of your resources to help you do that.
Wonderful. So it sounds like it's going to be a series of meetings to come up to an agreement as opposed to maybe one long day of mediation. Some people might have heard about that kind of setup.
Some people do it that way. And for them, that's their way of doing it, and that might be their fit. My view is these are hard discussions. Sometimes you need to be able to have time to think about the issues. So I limit our discussions to 2 hours. I find if they're too short, if they're shorter than 2 hours, I'm saying is what we schedule for. If we schedule for less, we end up revisiting the same ground, talking about what we did last time so that we could start the next session. I find anything more than 2 hours, you get diminishing returns. It's hard to focus. So we take breaks when we need them. Anyone can ask for a break at any time. It's important to be able to stay fresh, to be able to stay focused. And then when you're done with the session, to be able to think about what you've already talked through and to be able to think about what's next. You need some time to process. Not everybody processes in
Yeah.
real time. I know for myself, I always have ideas that come up afterwards, not just in terms of, I wish I had said, but saying, you know what, I have another idea. And doing it in this way gives you the time to to let those good ideas bubble up, for you to think about them and then talk about them and think them through. Like I said, it's really about trying to get to your best agreements that you can.
It's definitely one of the pressure areas is having to make a decision right away and feel like people are pressured before they have to sign. So that's great that you give people the time to process that and then come back to ask questions and make adjustments as needed.
Yeah, we all process differently, especially in neurodivergent families. And that's not just in time. Some of us process better visually. Some of us process better by talking things through orally. The way I do things, we do a lot of screen sharing. We're writing things. So not only are we hearing what we're talking about, we're seeing what the agreements are, real time, making adjustments. These are all ways that I try with the families that I work with to help them to make sure what we're saying, what we're hearing is what we're understanding at the end of the day, and that we're connecting with each other in those ways.
Great. So you're not only working with parents of neurodivergent children, but also one of both of the parents may be as well.
I work with both. It's with both parents, like I said, at the same time. Generally speaking, and when they make an agreement, we write it up. More often than not, we're writing it up right then, and we're looking at it and saying, "Does that sound right? Does that feel right? What else do you think?
Great,
Right?
great. So
Are we getting it right?"
right. And so the next step after that, once they have that an MOU that everyone's agreed upon, then they would take that to their own attorney. They can maybe work with one attorney or two separate attorneys at that point.
Every state has different rules, but that's the general idea, is that they have someone then look at it and then formalize it so that it could be submitted if it's a divorce. If it's sometimes it's we're talking about agreements that don't necessarily have to go to the court, that are between them. Those can be done too. They might not need formal legal papers, but they have their blueprint in the MOU to take whatever that next step is going to be and work with the attorneys. And again, if they're working with an attorney and a question comes up at that point that they're not able to address, they can always come back and we can have another discussion about that.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so, what are the best ways for people to find you and reach out to you and see if you're a good fit to work with them in their situation?
I have free consultations. I want to make sure we have that opportunity. It's usually between 20 and 30 minutes long. You could reach me at my website, which is www.feigmediationgroup.com, and schedule a consultation with me. I think that's the best way to make an introduction, to get a feel for each other. It gives me a chance to get a sense of what's going on with you and what the situation is. We could talk about the mediation process. We could answer your questions and really see if it's a fit for you. And then we go from there. And if it's again, I think then we're starting down the path. Once that's done, if everybody says yes to move forward, we're able to start rolling up our sleeves and we get started.
Wonderful. And we talked a little bit earlier about a team approach. What do you suggest that are some helpful either people or resources when people are going through these type of challenges?
I think it's really there's so many needs in so many different areas, and we are in a fortunate time when there are tremendous resources like you, like others. We have coaches, we have financial experts, we have you name it, tax experts. We have real estate, if that's what needs to be done. We have people who can help with therapies, mental health professionals, therapeutics, medications, all down the line. I am often called upon in my role to work alongside other people, and hopefully it becomes a team approach in the sense of whatever resources the parents need, they feel comfortable being able to get them and to utilize them along the way. So I don't view mediation, and of course, I'll mention, well, legal advice. These are all from my perspective, good things to have available. Get to know them before you need to know them. Same advice like I would give for myself. Have them available for if, as, and when you need them. And then you go from there.
Wonderful. So the information you shared is so helpful. Is there anything else you'd like to share about some advice or things to think about if you're facing some difficult times with your neurodivergent children in these kind of family matters and transitions?
Look, I think it boils down to trying to get to a point where you're not just reacting and waiting until you're in crisis mode. It's what we're all striving to do. It's always a work in progress. But when there's opportunities to plan, when there's opportunities to say, you know what, I think this is going to be an issue, I try to remove this idea of we should be able to do things or we should be able to get through this without help. There's no shame in it. And in fact, I view it as a sign of strength. If you're looking to assemble the team you need, the people you need, the help you need in order to get through with less stress, do it in a healthier way and do it in a way that keeps your kids front and center and gets them what they need.
Right. That's the goal. And that's what we hope everyone is trying for sure.
That's it. At the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for your time, and definitely encourage people to reach out to Eric if you need some help, either now or in the future, or know someone who could use that support.
Thanks again for having me.